Dents and scratches putting a dent in your day? Introducing Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide, your trusted solution for automotive woes. With over 2 decades of expertise, Roger Steen Crash Repairs guarantees top-notch service, restoring your vehicle to its former glory in no time. From minor dings to major collisions, our skilled technicians handle it all with precision and care, using state-of-the-art equipment and techniques.
Roger Steen Crash Repairs saved my car. It looks brand new.
Fast, friendly and reliable. I wouldn't trust anyone else with my vehicle. Don't let accidents slow you down. Visit Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide at 14 Penner Avenue, Glynde for quality service you can count on. And here's a special offer just for our listeners. Mention this podcast and receive a $100 discount on your repair. Roger Steen Crash Repairs Adelaide. Excellence in every repair.
Past players, past legends, past legends.
We are privileged to have basketball royalty with us tonight. Rachael Sporn, a casual 5 times WNBL champions, twice MVP Grand Final, twice WNBL Player of the Year, 2 times WNBL All-Star, WNBL Top Scorer, 304 games for Australia, 3 years for Detroit, Australian Basketball Hall of Fame, Australian Sport Hall of Fame, OAM. Rachel, we could keep going and going. What a privilege to have you aboard. Thanks, Rach.
Oh, no, it's a pleasure to join you.
Thank you for joining us, Rach. Obviously, that's all we've got time for because there's plenty of stats there for us to talk about. But like with most of our guests, we like to start with where you sort of grew up and some of your juniors. But in doing a bit of research, you didn't play too much junior basketball.
No, because back in the day, there wasn't really like the talent identification programs that are around now. And I was sort of, because I was country Victoria, I was 6 hours from Melbourne, but I was closer to South Australia, 2.5 hours from Adelaide. And so, yeah, I just played in the, I obviously grew up in Murrayville in Victoria, but played in the Lameroo and District League with both netball and basketball. And yeah, I think we were just a little bit too rural to be discovered, to play a lot of junior basketball. And yeah, there wasn't any junior programs growing up. So when I was 9, I was playing with adults. I was playing with my mum. And so it wasn't until I was, I guess, 12 when I'd had a growth spurt, was playing the A grade. And yeah, mum and I won 5 premierships together, which was pretty special. I love, that's one of the things I love about in the country is that you get to play with your parents, which is pretty cool.
That's an incredible record, Rach. Something.
And basketball wasn't offered all year round. It was just in summer. You know, we trained once a week, played once a week, and I grew up playing on outdoor courts. We didn't have an indoor gym. So, yeah, it was pretty different.
Netball as well, or always basketball, Rach?
No, netball too, because I actually started playing netball when I was 7, because there were juniors in netball, so I could start a little bit earlier. And so loved the ritual of netball and football being played together. So you'd all set out as a family, and it was such a wonderful outing, you know, every Saturday during winter. Absolutely love those times. But I did love netball just as much as basketball. But, my basketball sort of ended up finding me in a way.
And getting to play with your mum, obviously, when you're a junior, most people love to do that as juniors, but they often come back to it when they finish their career a little bit. But isn't that fantastic that you're able to still do that?
Yeah, 9. What took you so long, Rach? Come on.
And, because basketball was actually introduced into our town in Murrayville in 1968, the year that I was born, because a school teacher came down from Oyen and taught the coach at the time how to play basketball, because it was a very new sport in Australia. And so the rules were very, very basic, and training was very basic. So when I look back on it, it's because we just didn't know a whole lot. I'd never got to see women's basketball on TV, because the only time I guess I saw women competing was the Olympic Games and Commonwealth Games, and they just didn't. And basketball wasn't in the Olympics, not until '84. So I just didn't see any women's basketball on TV at all growing up.
And so from there, Rach, so you had your growth spurt, your thing, and you've been spotted by a lady from West Adelaide and came down here at the age of 17 and go from there. You were sort of fast tracked pretty quickly as well.
Yeah, so a wonderful lady, Beth Sell, saw me playing an association game in Bordertown, and it's quite a funny story because she saw me play and she knew that my surname was a football surname because of Dad.
Yep.
But so she sort of went back and told the West Adelaide Scouts about me, and all she could remember was her name's Rachael, she's tall and skinny, and she's got sporting a football surname. And as fate would have it, there was another Rachael who was tall and skinny, and her surname was Ebert. So she got invited down, not me. So they sort of realised, not sure if this is the right recruit, and so they had to come back and then invite me down. They wanted me to move to Adelaide when I was doing year 12, but I was like, no, there's no way I'm leaving home, my most important year of school, because obviously not knowing that where basketball was going to take me. So Mum would drive me down to Adelaide once a month for the tall girl clinics. That's what they were called. So that was my first ever specialised coaching, at the age of 17. And 86, I moved down. So my brother Kieran was already here with West Adelaide Football Club. So that sort of helped. But I was very homesick. I realised I wasn't very fit, and I realised I had no left hand. Didn't know how to play man-to-man D. I didn't have a jump shot. So thankfully I was at uni and my coach spent a lot of time with me at the time, Ted Powell, who sort of did fast track me and taught me how to do a jump shot, and everything else. So 86 was pretty hard. I was a bit overwhelmed at times because it's like, oh my God, I've got so much to learn, but thank my 17-year-old self every day that I didn't give up and didn't quit.
And so that you were 4 years with West Adelaide, then joined North Adelaide. And look, I will be honest, I was at Nord High with Marissa Rowe and Megan Roach, so I reckon I may have come out and had a look at the odd game or two back then, Rach.
Yeah, and probably because we're wearing sports briefs and not even shorts.
Marissa did poll 15 out of 10 and the best looking girl at Nord High as well, I may add.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Yes. So you go from there, and then, of course, from there, you've had your grounding, went back to West Adelaide, but Adelaide Lightning are born, and really away you go. And away the state went too, sort of thing. You know, Adelaide Lightning were huge back then. Let's be honest, everyone loves a winner, and Adelaide Lightning did that consistently.
Yeah, and I sort of look back, and I guess I feel very fortunate that when I did move down, we still had 3 National League teams in West, North and Noarlunga because, as a raw rookie coming down to Adelaide, I started playing WNBL immediately, whereas if I came to town, and there's only one team, I would have struggled to make my debut maybe for a couple of years. So I feel very fortunate I was given that opportunity. And, we went through the years that you had to fundraise to exist. I've done all the car washes, yellow page deliveries, everything that you need to do to stay afloat. So becoming Lightning was so wonderful because we didn't have to fundraise anymore. We were more professional. Jan Stelling was our coach. Jan was very ahead of her time with her cross training. So I think we really had so much success because we were so fit, and she had us peaking at exactly the right time. And because we had a great program, then we attracted great people. And, out of the Institute of Sport, we got Joe Hill back, we got Jay Kingy, and we got Carla Boyd. So 3 amazing youngsters to come and join, us who are a little bit older and veterans of the team. So I think I was at 1994. Yes, I was 24, when Lightning was formed, and pretty amazing journey with them.
How did you find the transition from, say, club basketball to obviously the Lightning, being a little bit more national? Yeah,
so I obviously was playing state league for Westies, and our state league team was our WNBL team, which is very unique. But the physicality, I guess for me was the biggest thing, because when I played at home, you didn't touch each other. You played zone and you just cut the key, and so that was a big learning for me, is the physicality and I guess the speed of the game and intensity. But I realised that I loved that, and I loved the challenge. And I think stepping over the white line just became something that I loved doing, and and just loved the battle.
And let's go to your debut for Australia, Rach. So when was that? And look, let's be honest, 304 games later, it is an incredible career. When the debut, Rach?
Yeah, so 89. It was a pretty special year because it was the same year that Kieran made his debut with Essendon.
Essendon, yep.
So it was pretty special for the family. And, obviously when you join the Opals, you have a 4-year plan, and the next Olympics was Barcelona. And, we've just seen the Opals qualify for Paris.
Yeah, we're going to bring that up at the end, yep.
Yeah, I know. And it's quite ironic because Brazil didn't qualify. And back in 1992, we went to the pre-Olympic tournament in Vigo in Spain, because back then there was only 8 women's teams in the Olympic program. There's 12. So it was there was 16 nations trying to qualify for 4 spots. That's all that was left. And I remember we won our first 5 games, and we lost our 6th game in double overtime to Brazil, and we had to win our last game against Czechoslovakia, and we lost by 3. So that was that's still so visible in my mind, and all of us crying in the change rooms after, because I was 24. I was so ready to go to my first Olympic Games, and we all just felt like we'd failed, and it was so hard coming home and facing everyone. And a lot of changes were made after that. Our coach always gets the blame. He got sacked, and then they appointed Tom Ma. We also got a new name because we weren't always the Opals. Incredibly, because the men were called the Boomers, we were called the Bloomers, which was awful.
Right.
So thank God we got changed to Opals, and then they tried, we got the bodysuit as well. So there was a lot of changes that took place, but Tom Ma built a brand new culture, and I was very lucky because it was parallel with Lightning have a lot of success, and then obviously with the Opals, and so appreciative of my first Olympics in '96, and we created history when we won the first ever Olympic medal. It was pretty amazing.
Just going back a little bit of a step, I know the disappointment of obviously not qualifying in Barcelona there, but you got to pinch yourself a little bit. Young lady from, country Victoria moves her way through some South Australian basketball, playing for the Lightning, and all of a sudden you're overseas playing for Australia. Yes, all right, you didn't qualify, but gee, what an experience that would have been, and I think that's probably helped you a little bit for Atlanta, which we were just talking about.
Yeah, no, it really, as I said, Barcelona really hurt. And in between that, what was wonderful is that we hosted the World Cup in 1994, was called Oz 94. And, you could see the success of the World Cup in Sydney in 2022. So we finished 4th at that tournament. So that gave us a lot of self-belief. And then qualifications changed. There was now 12 women's teams in Atlanta Olympics, so our qualification became just through Oceania. And we've also always had the wood over New Zealand, thank goodness, in basketball. So the qualification process was so much easier. It's got harder again now because it's Asian and then playing against other nations. But yeah, I had to wait till I was 28, and it was quite surreal, obviously being there, and it was wonderful. Mum and Dad were there, and my partner at the time. So it was pretty amazing to experience that. And, I guess, my journey, who would have thought, because my idol growing up was Raylene Boyle, because I used to see her run in the Olympics, and I just wanted to be like her. When I was 8 years old, I saw her run, and I realised I wasn't as fast as I thought running at home in the paddocks, but at least I got there in a team game, and in the sport that, I think is the best game in the world.
Have to ask, did you do the opening ceremony at Atlanta?
We did.
What an experience.
It was amazing, and we were able to, because we played the second day after the opening ceremony, and in Sydney we also did the opening ceremony even though we played the next day, because thankfully our coach Tom Ma said you can't miss it, you have to do it in your home nation. And so the only time we didn't was at Athens, because we played at 9 a.m. the next morning, and it's such a big night, so you don't really get to bed till 1 or 2 a.m. and we had to be up at 6, so there was no way we were going to be able to do it in Athens.
And how about the thrill of winning the bronze medal too, Rach?
At Atlanta.
Atlanta, yeah.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. It was euphoric. And it's a really interesting one because when you win a bronze, you've won your last game, you've won a bronze medal. My next two Olympics, we won silver, but you lose your
Yes,
final
I
match.
admit that's where I was hinting going.
Yes,
Yeah.
so it's just the craziness of that, of the difference of that experience. But you've achieved better when you're second in the world.
It
and
is
you've got
weird,
the
isn't it?
silver, but
Yeah.
you're crying because you lost. So it's probably not until you go back into the rooms and then you realise, okay, we've won a silver. You put your podium outfit on, you're back out on the dais together, and then you are happy, and you're celebrating. And unfortunately, bloody USA have kept us from the top podium. They haven't lost an Olympic match since 1992. They've won the last 7 gold medals. They're on a ridiculous winning streak, and I can't wait for someone to topple them. I certainly hope it's the Opals in July, August this year.
Okay, while we're there, the Opals qualifying, thank goodness. And look, we've got to talk about Lauren Jackson to come back again, and now's retired again. It's a bit of a Johnny Farnham in terms of that way, but
A comeback tour.
yeah, what a player she.
Extraordinary. And I was lucky enough to be with Lauren on her first ever tour, and it was actually in Brazil, incredibly. And I remember she was 16, and she'd probably only play about 10 minutes each game, but her efficiency even then was off the charts. And we're like, yeah, okay, she's pretty good, but I'm sure she wouldn't be able to sustain that, over 40 minutes. But how wrong were we? And it ends up being the GOAT. So yeah, it was wonderful for me to, I guess, see from where she first started, and then the superstar that she became, and how important she was for us in Sydney. As an 19-year-old, she was our top scorer, I think second top scorer for the whole tournament, and just so poised beyond her years. I think she'd have to be the most mentally tough athlete I've ever seen. It can be so much going on in her life, but as soon as she steps onto the court, she's just so mentally focused. And I think having her the pre-Olympic tournament, she's your security blanket, because she's lived such big moments on the floor, and just having her in the program just gives everyone reassurance. And I know she would have given that in spades. And she didn't obviously play the last game against Serbia because she'd already qualified. And the poor thing, her body, she can't train a lot. She was probably having cortisone injections in her knee every day. It's tough. Her body's been put through a lot. And I know she's said publicly it's her boys that she doesn't want to be away from, and she does struggle with that. And when you're leading into an Olympic campaign, you're away a lot.
Yeah.
So she's a 4-time Olympian. She doesn't have to prove anymore. So she's just got all that's missing from her cabinet is the Olympic gold medal, but she's got everything else.
She reminds me of Shane Warne in terms of just the mental toughness.
Yep.
That's my sort of. He could manage to decompartmentalize everything going on the court, and you'd heard some private things Lauren was going through, but just still go over that white line, and away she went.
Yeah, no, absolutely. She admits herself that she was a bit of a nightmare when she was young on the basketball court. She was hard to coach, didn't really listen, probably wasn't a great teammate, but, she matured so beautifully as she got older. And I think she said the tournament that she enjoyed the most was the World Cup in Sydney. The culture was really great with the Opals, and obviously they won the bronze. And, it was her comeback sort of game and tournament. And she just blew us all away. Hitting 30 in the bronze medal game was just extraordinary. So yeah, I'm glad that she was. I'm glad that I was. What is she? 42. I'm glad that I was 13 years older than her, so she wasn't always my opponent. Because she was definitely my toughest opponent. I'm so glad that she was also my teammate.
Yeah,
sort of reminds you a little bit of Kobe and LeBron and Michael Jordan, really, when it comes to that mental toughness when it comes to the basketball court, for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely. She's up there on her own in that regard.
Obviously, you head off to Atlanta. You come back, obviously playing for the Lightning. A couple of key moments there between, say, Atlanta and Sydney for the Lightning that hold a special place in your heart.
Well, obviously, when we did the three-peat, know, 94, 95, 96 were extraordinary because I remember we made the preliminary final in our first year as a franchise, but I think we lost by 1 point to get through the grand final. So to dominate in the 90s like that when basketball was at the top of its game, I remember, you know, we played before the 36ers. You'd have to book 3 months in advance to get a ticket. It was just so great those days. And then 97, because we made the grand final 5 years in a row, we lost in 97 and then won it again in 98. So yeah, it was, you know, pinching ourselves at time and, you know, it's hard to stay on top because you do become the hunted. And, you know, it did take a while for them to get another premiership. It was 2008 and obviously, you know, haven't won one since. So you're always searching, trying to get back up there. No, absolutely the best of times, best memories for me playing for Lightning. I just absolutely loved it. And I guess I was just so appreciative that I was in an era when Lightning was formed and I got to play for them.
Now, I'm reliably informed today there may have been a game where Rachael Sporn was actually struggling and it had a poor first half. And Jan Sterling said, I'm going to blast Rachael at half time. And they went, no, you can't do that to the great Rachael and all that. And apparently Jan may have torn strips off you. You came out, dominated 24 points in the second half and made the point to Jan afterwards. Thank you. That was exactly what I needed.
Yeah, she didn't yell at me much.
Yes.
And I know when she did, I didn't appreciate it at the time. It was half time. It was in front of all my teammates.
Yes.
And I was like, right, it made me so angry. But it worked.
Yeah.
So, but we had a very good relationship and I didn't get too much of her wrath, I guess, over the journey, but she knew when I needed it and she recognized that. And it's funny because when mobile phones first came out, I knew, and I still remember Jan's number. I think I only know 3 mobile numbers that I remember, and I still remember Jan's.
I'm a lot better than that.
We saw each other every day.
Yeah. Just in terms of, though, with Jan, ahead of her time and just master coach in terms of communication and reading the right buttons, etc., and installing your team belief and team chemistry. Yeah,
no, definitely. Again, she built a great culture, just great offenses, and she had fantastic basketball IQ. Knew what plays to run in clutch moments when the pressure's on. She never really cracked, and she was amazing in how, because she was our fitness person, our coach, our dietitian. She did everything because we didn't have the money to have people to do that for us professionally. So I don't know. She just knew to cover everything that made us such a professional and fit team. And everyone that came into the program, she sort of knew what their role would be, how they would fit, and obviously Jan went on to coach the Opals and coached me in Athens. With the Opals, which was pretty special for both of us. So no, our time together, it's been a long time. It's been a long one.
Now, we'll come back to the Sydney Olympics and Athens a little bit more, but in between all of that, you're the second round pick or 14th overall for Detroit. Just go through that experience once again, coming from little old Adelaide and all of a sudden you're drafted into the WNBA.
Yeah, so obviously the WNBA was formed after the Atlanta Olympics, so 1997 was the first year, and Michelle Timms was the only Australian selected in the first year because she had an amazing campaign in Atlanta. And so, we were pretty excited because she paved the way for Australians and playing in Phoenix. And then, so I felt very privileged to be drafted. Wasn't thrilled that I was going to Detroit. It's not exactly. I was, hoping to get to Seattle or New York or somewhere a little bit more exciting. But but what was great was Sandy Brondello and Carla Boyd came to Detroit as well. So having, my teammates, Opal's teammate and my Lightning teammate there with me was fabulous. Yeah, look, it was wonderful times because you were a professional basketballer while you were there. You didn't work. You just trained and played. we played in all the NBA stadiums. I played in Madison Square Gardens, which was like, wow, how good is this? And you played 32 games in 70 days, so it's just what you love. You love doing. You're not training as much, and you're playing more. And the support in those early years, I think it's come back with WNBA, but they were averaging 15,000 a game, and it was just you go on the road and you're on a 9-day road trip, whereas here you're just gone for a couple of days. So the experience of that, I'll never forget it. Thankfully, at the time, our dollar wasn't great, so what you got paid, the wages weren't great. Like I was on 37,500, getting picked up in number 14 in the draft. That was all I was on. So it was nice, obviously, to get that in US dollars and convert that. But
you'd be on a bit more than that now, Rach.
Yeah.
Well, they are.
Yes.
And I guess for me, I look back at all the players who, your Jenny Cheesemans, your Julie Nichols, your Pat Mickens, who got no money from basketball.
Yeah.
I feel very lucky that I came through, very appreciative when we weren't getting paid, and then you got a little bit of money, and then it was a bit more. It just helped you, I guess, be more professional because you didn't have to work quite as much. You could, work on your game.
Now, I have to ask, were you, all the Australian girls, were you living together? Was there some shenanigans along the way there over in Detroit?
No, we all had our own apartments, and we were all in I was already married. Not a whole lot of shenanigans. You're too tired to do. I think because it was, I was already 30 by the time I went to the WNBA. So maybe if I was 20.
I reckon you would have been amongst the votes, Rachel. Yeah.
I had to ask.
So it was, but it was just a wonderful experience. And I feel very, grateful that I got to do that.
You're listening to the Game On Podcast. We'll be right back after this short break.